Hello, friends. Ken Graves here with God's Sword. It's Friday, November 7th, the year 2025. We'll continue on our journey through the Gospel of Matthew with Matthew chapter 14. We'll read first of the death of John the Baptist. Matthew chapter 14, verse 1. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the news about Jesus and said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He's risen from the dead. And that is why miraculous powers are at work in him." For when Herod had John arrested, he bound him, put him in prison because of Herodias, or Herodias, his wife, that is, Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip. Herod Tetrarch has his brother's wife. That's an interesting verb. He has her. He's not allowed to have her while his brother is alive. He would be free to marry her if his brother were dead, if she were widowed. But his brother Philip and the kingdom, now that had been the reign of Herod the Great, the one from the Christmas story, the murderer, who ordered the death of all the babies in Bethlehem, all the baby boys. That is the that is the grandfather of this one, this Herod the Tetrarch, the sort of quarter ruler. He has a brother. The kingdom is divided. They all share it, four-way division. But this particular Herod Tetrarch had taken his brother's wife. For John had been saying to him, "It is not lawful for you to have her." And although Herod wanted to put him to death, he feared the crowd because they were regarding John as a prophet. Herod wanted to kill him, but he was prevented. He's a politician. He was concerned about the masses, the uproar that would result from executing, but the pressure to actually arrest and later execute John the Baptist was coming from a woman who was outraged. It was because of Herodias. Verse 6 says, "But when Herod's birthday came, the daughter of Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Having been prompted by her mother, she said, 'Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist.' And although he was grieved, the king commanded it to be given because of his oaths, because of his dinner guests. And he sent and had John beheaded in the prison, and his head was brought on a platter and given to the girl, and she brought it to her mother. And his disciples came and took away the body and buried it, and they went and reported to Jesus." John the Baptist, his ministry did not last long, but it was powerful. The Welsh revivalist Leonard Ravenhill, long ago, in his book Why Revival Tarries, remarked that John's ministry, for which he'd been in preparation for 30 years, only lasted about 6 months. A modern ministry tradition is to train a man for maybe 4 or 5 years and then put him to the field and have him serve for 30 or more decades. Training for a few years, serving for decades, where John trained for decades and served for months. But as Ravenhill observes, he did in those few months what an army of religious experts and priests, scribes and Pharisees could not do in the 4 centuries of God's, Yahweh's, silence to Israel. John was a true prophet, and he spoke the message given to him by God. And the nation heard it. They heard a prophet. But how his ministry ended, he confronted, he spoke the truth. I think even knowing that it would likely cost him, he indicted a politician, a ruler. The rebuke was justified. It was called for. The king of the covenant people had taken what was not his. He took his brother's wife. John confronted it. And the way this all goes down, that he had been reluctant to kill John the Baptist. He wanted to, but he was afraid of the people. But then comes his birthday. No doubt, Herodias and her wicked daughter knew enough about the lust that would drive a man like Herod. They knew enough to know that he would be aroused by this young girl's dance, and that he would utter promises. She'd been instructed by her mother. Her mother, again, knowing that Herod was this way, that he would speak out of lust, and there would be an opportunity. That when he did what apparently he was known to do, and he uttered this great oath, I'll give you anything you want to have of the kingdom. He offered her power. She had been instructed by her mother to say, what I want is John the Baptist's head. I want that prophet dead. I want his head on a platter. And Herod had trapped himself. He was bound. He'd made the oath. He'd uttered it before witnesses, all of his guests. Pride would keep him from withdrawing the offer. He gave the order. And John the Baptist, a man of God, a true prophet of God, was beheaded to satisfy an oath made out of lust. It has been rightly said, John the Baptist, he gave up his head. He lost his head, but he did not lose his voice. John continued to speak. John continues to speak, even to now. He never gave up his voice. He didn't compromise. He didn't, what's the word today? He didn't walk it back. When confronted and arrested, his death was a good death. It was. It was a death for the sake of truth. You know, that's an interesting thing. The contrast between the true followers of Yahweh, the contrast between a true, for there are many today that religious people, some of whom even think to identify themselves as followers of Christ, of Christians. Some of them even, shouting and making their banner the statement, Christ is king, but he's not really. He's not their king. The contrast between the true follower of Christ and the religious and potentially violent zealot is one is ready to kill, but the true follower of Christ is ready to die. Ready to die in the name of love, ready to die on behalf of the truth, just as John the Baptist did, and just as all of the prophets ultimately from all through history, beginning with Abel. And that was the word, by the way, in Matthew chapter 23. We're not there yet, but the word from the Son of God was that the blood of all the prophets, from the A to the Z, from Abel, second generation human, from Abel, brother of Cain, who was murdered by his brother because he was righteous, from Abel all the way to Zechariah, a more recent, more contemporary martyr who had been killed, according to the Lord, between the temple and the altar. From all the blood of all the prophets, from the A to the Z, will be required of the generation that saw to the death of the Son of God. More than a prophet, one that all the prophecy was about. But the Lord himself would die. So I want you to think about that. If you happen to be among the, and I realize I'm talking to mostly my friends, but if you happen to be among the haters that are part of that really cultic movement that is ready to take up arms, that cultic movement that hates Israel, that hates the Jews, if you're among those who have identified me as a Jew sympathizer, well, you need to know I'm a lot more than that. I'm a Jew defender. The Jews, you know, the madness. Oh, the madness of just lumping one people all together. It is insane. It really is. For it doesn't matter what ethnicity, what family of humanity a person comes from, there are truly decent people and there are truly evil people. But if you're among those who have so labeled me, I want you to know that for the love of Christ, who died for the sins of the world, I am likewise ready to die. Is that true of you, or are you just ready to kill? It's a big difference. I do urge you to think that through. There's an old saying, there's only three kinds of people in the world, them it is, them it ain't, and them that thinks they is, but ain't. Please don't be in that third category. Is your faith, is your religion truly biblical? John the Baptist, a Jew, sent by God to confront his own people, his whole nation, and make them ready to receive the one who'd come after him, the Messiah. He had said to the religious who tried to make him envious that greater crowds were now going to the one that he introduced everybody to. And he had said, you know, he must increase and I must decrease. He had said, he's greater than me. I'm not even worthy to untie his sandals. Please think about that. John the Baptist recognized that his course had been run. I believe in much the same way as the Apostle Paul, 2 Timothy, his final epistle, stating plainly that he had fought a good fight, he'd run the good race, and it was time. John the Baptist seemed to have the same sense. It was time. Look forward to meeting John. John's not headless in heaven. He is with his king, and I'm highly honored. For he was willing to die rather than to deny truth. He was willing to speak the truth even knowing it would cost him. We must be the same. Dear friends, my dear brothers and sisters, understand that reality, that it may indeed, in one way or the other, it will indeed cost us to stand for the truth. My friend, young Charlie Kirk, was quoted in just days before his martyrdom as stating plainly, it may cost us. But we all got to go to heaven sometime, he said. I appreciated that. That kind of courage. That's the way to live. So John the Baptist, his life came to an end. His life on earth came to an end. He was beheaded in a most, what would you call, in noble way, in a most, what people would consider humiliating circumstances, but he is honored in the presence of God, honored. Great man. Spoke the truth. Let us do likewise. All right, so listen, this is the Friday study. I don't know when it is you're actually following along, and maybe you're way behind, but if you're caught up, I want to encourage you to gather with God's people. There are no perfect churches. There are no perfect people. Most of the churches are doing the best they can. And if I want to encourage you, don't settle for just, online biblical intake, but give a live pastor an opportunity to teach you some Bible and get behind them and pray for them and gather with God's people, the people of God. They need you, you need them. And go with the heart, I believe, that heart that says, I want to be a blessing. Go looking to be a blessing, and you will leave there blessed. You will indeed. All right. If there's any way I can answer a question for you, I'll try. Our email address is CC for Calvary Chapel. It's Calvary Chapel Bangor, so email us at ccbangor.org. And please continue to follow along. We'll pick up where we left off here in the 14th chapter of Matthew on what will be for me Monday. All right, grace and peace to you all.